Hello everybody and welcome back to my little slice of the internet, aka Jenna Spiel. In today's episode we will be continuing our adventures of Army of Darkness, this time checking out Old School. In case you're wondering how Ashley J. Williams would celebrate burning down the Arkham Asylum, well, it's pretty much how you'd imagine. He gets blackout drunk. Sadly, not blackout drunk enough to blur out these dreams because his sexy foursome fantasy turns into a bloodbath. Well, how does one go about hitting the undo button to negate all this nonsense? Well, we gotta take it back to the beginning, as usual, so you know what that means. Sadly, it involves something that you've seen time and time again. That's right, pack a bag, we're going back to the cabin. I don't know why Ash doesn't just permanently set up shop there. I mean, he goes back often enough, he may as well just live there. Ash and Sugar Baby, who you may recall as Madeline, show up to the cabin, and before we can even bother with much monologuing, Ash gets pulled into the cabin and the shooting and slashing begins pronto. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this getting floored pun? Now I know what you're thinking when panels like this pop up as we're reading. Gratuitous butt shots. But, my friends, of all the literary reading I've done in my life, never have I seen foreshadowing come in the form of a tramp stamp. Props for originality. Yeah, so basically the Book of the Dead is harnessed through her tramp stamp and she turns evil. Folks, take a walk with me down memory lane for a moment. If you recall the Evil Dead movies, you'll probably remember Sam Raimi forcing his brother into a fat suit, aka Henrietta. You know, that costume so sweat-inducing that liquid poured out of the ears. Yeah, well, she's back in this comic and she has a very important plot point. When Ash looks upon that beautiful face, he has an epiphany. That's right, it's the professor's fault that all this keeps happening over and over and over again. So where is this nutty professor? But apparently it doesn't even matter because just destroying the tape player with his voice is enough to sever the cord between the two worlds and stop the Evil Dead. We can't even take a moment to relish this victory because Sheila pops up and is like, "Hey Ash, now you gotta take on the denizens?" Man, Ash will never catch a break. Oh, and in case you're scratching your head wondering, how is it we've destroyed this cabin so many times and it keeps coming back to being perfectly immaculate and just waiting for Ash? Well, this evil little hand just, you know, is super helpful at home DIY apparently. That's a fun little touch. Finally, when we get to the last page, we see possibly the most epic ending ever. Ash will be taking on the creature classic Dracula in the next issue. However, I don't have that issue because I have the omnibus. So the next one we'll be checking out is Tales from Army of Darkness, which is just a random collection of 5 stories that I don't really believe are related and I don't think are Ash versus Dracula, so... Final thoughts? This has probably been my favorite Army of Darkness comic so far. And I think the title Old School is very apt to the content, because when you look through it and look at all the scenery and the imagery, it's very much reminiscent of the movies. But also in general, when you look at the movies, a lot of it is based on kind of the gore and the action, which I feel has been lost in some of the other comics when it just kind of goes off into some rambling and exposition. New characters are introduced. So yeah, I think this one is a great homage to the series. 2 thumbs up.
I'm dead.
Probably the only downside I can find in this is Sugar Baby's character. As I mentioned in the last video, I was really hoping her magic powers would be something kind of explored a bit more, or, you know, would come in handy. Versus in this, she just ended up being the female that gets possessed, and in typical Army of Darkness, she just becomes the damsel in distress, so that's a little bit overplayed. Well folks, I hope I see you next time, whether that be Tales of the Army of Darkness, or maybe Ash vs. Dracula, depending on if I can actually get my hands on a copy. But as we learned from this issue, Ash is the pure-hearted despite his heavy boozing, and Sheila's gifted him with the task of taking down more baddies, so I'm sure I'll see you guys next time with lots more Ash, lots more Deadites. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye!